Hey folks, Fernando doing another video for the Modern Survivalist, and this is a video I want to do for a long time. 10 tools every prepper should have. Now, I'm no expert. I just use tools sporadically like most normal people, and this is basically what I've learned over the years. Now, I want to start with this. If you get anything out of this video, at the very least, understand that you need protective equipment. You want to use your glasses for anything that you have chips or splinters or anything flying in your direction. You want to protect your eyes. You want to protect yourself by using safety boots. These are going to be protecting you from electric discharges, anything dropping there. There's this theory that it's even worse to have the metal toe. That's just not the way it is. There's even workplaces and shops and different factories where you're not even allowed inside if you're not wearing that sort of thing. Same for protecting your ears and using gloves. Do these things. I grew up with none of this being emphasized enough, and I would do lots of things that were just dangerous, and I got it out, easy, because I could have easily gotten a splinter in my eye, anything like that. There's people that lost fingers. My grandfather, he was a carpenter his entire life. He lost a couple of fingers in the job. Protect your lungs as well, your respiratory system. Use a mask. Masks, the topic these days, mostly because of the pandemic. This is the kind of thing you wear when you're doing anything that there's dust, there's going to be any, and there's different kinds of threats. Concrete is particularly nasty if you're cutting that, but same goes for grinders, metal. Wear the adequate protective gear depending on what you're doing, and you cannot emphasize on that enough. Also, before I go on with the video, subscribe to the channel. If you've been liking it, subscribe, hit the notification bell button, share it with people that may like it, and of course, if you like my take on survival and preparedness, as always, my books, the Modern Survival Manual and Street Survival Skills, the one I've been recommending lately in terms of practical skills. My first one mostly regarding getting through an economic collapse. Both of those available following the link below there in Amazon. So, number one, and I guess this is basic, get yourself a decent toolbox. You probably have one already, and the thing with toolboxes is you build on those as time goes by, you keep adding stuff. Something like this well may be the case. My grandfather was a carpenter his entire life. He had like a shop. There was a block, 20 people working there. So he was a carpenter his entire life. Now, after retiring, he was just, living life, retirement, and he had a very small toolbox that was not even as big as that. Now, he had a set of tools which he knew how to use perfectly well, and that man could do anything with that. Most things most people would never even dream of, he could do with a very minimal amount of tools. After having owned an entire shop full of equipment of all sorts, with just a few basic tools, because of the knowledge he had, he could do pretty much everything. Love my grandfather. So yeah, that's where you start. That's your number one thing to get, and you keep on building on it. Try getting decent tools. Stanley is okay for the price. They're decent enough tools. I like the brand. Set of socket wrenches and like that. These are nice to have instead of the cheaper Chinese crap, which sometimes is not all that good. So yeah, if you can, budget allows, don't buy the cheapest thing. If you don't have anything and you're starting from zero, those little tools from IKEA, that set that looks kind of, like what your girlfriend would have, but they're quite decent, and it's like $10 in IKEA. I actually bought 2 or 3 of these, and I have one in my car, like a spare set, and another one around there. For the money, they're very decent tools, not bad at all. So number 2 is going to be a good drill. Something like this. Black & Decker is pretty much okay. I think it's 500 or 750 watt power. There's something to be said about the wireless ones with a battery pack. They are nice because you don't have to worry about the cable, but at the same time, I don't know if they have the same punch, the same power, and of course they drain the battery and such. For some cases, they're fine and they're nice, or even better than having this. But in general, as a basic tool, they're usually also a little bit cheaper. And usually, maybe you're going to be doing some repairs and some do-it-yourself stuff when there's no power. In general, you're going to be waiting for power to have to be around for us to do this stuff. But either way, I'm going to be leaving some of the links below for some of these tools. If there's any holes you need to patch there in your setup, keep that in mind. But a drill, man, you can do a lot with a good drill and the right bit there. Number 3 is a grinder. These are fantastic. There's really nothing you cannot cut with the right grinder and the right disc. High quality stuff. There was a time in which I burned through more than one of the cheap Chinese knockoff crappy ones. Something like this, a nice brand. The model is well, whatever it is, they're professional. This is a solid, reliable tool, works well. But with the right disc, concrete, wood, steel, whatever it is, you're going to be cutting it and modifying it with this grinder. A grinder is one of those things that, just like a drill, you don't find a lot of people that don't have one. And if you don't have one, you definitely want to get it. Number 4, a Dremel tool. And this isn't exactly a Dremel tool, this is a Dexter power tool. I don't remember why I got this. Maybe the price, I think the price was actually very close, but it came with more little accessories, and that's what made up my mind. Usually, if this one ends up dying, I'll get a Dremel, but this one has been holding on so far. Why is it that you want one of these? Because they're pretty practical for some of the smaller stuff, especially in some of the things regarding gunsmithing, where you just have to be very careful and remove very little metal here and there, and the different bits allow you to do a bunch of different things, working metal, wood, with the right accessory that you replace here. But these, yeah, I'd say these are a must have, because they're so handy for lots of these little jobs. And number 5, hatchet or an axe or whatever it is that you need. I was talking with Matt Bracken the other day, and he told me, would you know that there's people that don't have an axe? Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, for a long time, I didn't have one, or maybe I spent some time without one. I have 2 now, and this one would be like a smaller hatchet. An axe is going to be useful depending on, especially if you're going to be splitting wood, for fireplaces and such. This would be a smaller hatchet for, splitting a few smaller pieces of wood for a fireplace, that sort of thing. But it is one of those tools you definitely want to have. And sure, there is a usefulness. The tomahawk can be used as a weapon. Mostly, the tomahawk is in fact a weapon. But one of these handy little hatchets can be used as a decent weapon as well. It has been used in that role for literally thousands of years. So yeah, this is one of those tools you definitely want to add and learn how to use properly. This is this is a hardware store axe, but man, this thing is very nicely balanced. The other one I have is kind of crappy. This one has a very decent edge. I know I can make it even better, but yeah, nice little hatchet. Number 6, and maybe one of the most useful tools you can possibly have, is a machete. Now, in the United States, machetes are not all that popular. In South America, it's like a hammer, a saw, a screwdriver, and a machete. That's basically the way it works. Now, machetes are intended for hacking through softer vegetation, and I guess that's why you don't have lots of jungles over there, so that's maybe one of the reasons. But man, these are super handy for a lot of things, and they're maybe one of the more practical, more useful survival knives. Actually, making a shorter machete if you have a longer one, and Cold Steel caught up on this very soon, and that's what they eventually ended up doing very successfully. So, but a machete, you can do a ton of things with a good machete, even chopping through smaller branches, even harder wood. With a little bit of patience, you can cut through it because of the weight and the edge that you can easily put on these things. This one is slightly modified by myself. The grip is not original, the clip and that sawback that I intended on getting done. Of course, it is a mean melee weapon, as a weapon for self-defense. If you don't have an actual firearm, and man, even if you have a firearm, catching someone at close distance with this baby, it's gonna be messy. This is razor sharp. It just shaves because I've sharpened it myself, and that's the way I like to keep it, and it has a very nice tip right there. Number, 7, pry bar, crowbar. Sure, get a couple of these, learn which one you like the best. What this does is basically multiply your force because of the lever that you're using. This one would be one of the smaller ones. This is one of the last ones I got, one of the latest ones I got. I like this for like a bug out bag, seems very handy. I have a bigger one which we were using before a few days ago for moving a few stones that we need to get out of the way. This one, it would be like for a bug out bag, just to open doors, windows. Someone told me on Instagram, which by the way is Fairfile308. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's going to be the link there. Just below the link of the stuff in Amazon, you'll find my Instagram link. And he told me that there was an earthquake where he lives and the doors got jammed and he had his bug out bag outside his bedroom, and little lessons, live and learn. But you want to have one of these for a bunch of things where you just need to put more strength in a specific spot. And of course, you can crash, break stuff with it, using it as a weapon even. Yeah, crowbar. Number 8, a shovel. Now, this is a tiny, e-tool military style shovel. This is actually the exact same one from Gerber for the US military. The only thing is this one is Black & Decker branded. I wouldn't be surprised if it's actually the same manufacturer, just doing it for Black & Decker, but it seems to be the exact same thing. These are fantastic for the size. You want to get a full-size shovel if you're going to be digging a big hole, a grave, something like that. Full-size shovel is always easier to work with. Now, the thing that you may not notice or may not fully realize, if you have to make a small hole, the kind you keep on digging and you just want to get down there as fast as possible, there's a point in which an actual full-size shovel is just too long and you cannot use it or you cannot operate once you're inside that hole. That's where digging trenches and this kind of thing comes into play. And I actually lended this to a guy that needed to do some water repairs, and he needed to make a hole and reach that pipe. This is the thing, the tool I gave him, and he was, man, this is fantastic. And I told him, yeah, this is exactly its intended purpose, to dig that kind of holes. So an e-tool or a full-size shovel, these usually will have like a saw, and you can hatch it with it if you put a bit of an edge there. This one is a little bit bended, so I'm not sure if that's that much of a good idea. But an e-tool, yeah, I'll leave the link for this one as well. Number 9, a saw. And this is the kind of saw you've probably seen lots of preppers have in their bags and such, and it is good. These are fantastic. These are very, very good for cutting larger chunks and branches of wood. Yeah, but, and even handier many times than the hatchet if you just want to cut a piece of wood. Now, having said that, I will strongly recommend you to get one of these. An actual wood saw. This is from Stanley Fat Max Heavy Duty. This thing is amazing. It just cuts through wood like a laser. If you haven't used one of these things, and I mean, most of my life I've used crappy Chinese knockoff saws that were just a pain to use. The first time I got this one, and used it, it was, my God, this thing just cuts through 2x4s like if it's nothing. It's 6x4s, whatever it is, whatever piece of wood you put this on, you're going to be sawing through it like you wouldn't believe. If you haven't used one of these before, give it a try. These are absolutely worth the money, and they're really not that expensive. But a good saw, yeah, you want to have one. And number 10, finally, something I wish I had done a long time ago is get yourself a welder. And this is specifically a tiny pocket hobby arc welder, a stick welder. Based on what I've read, it's maybe one of the best ways to get started. Yeah, sure, you have easier ones, but the stick welder is a classic, and it's one of the more rugged ones. If you have to, weld, anything that's a bit rusted, not all that clean. For preppers specifically, stick welder is where you want to get started with. Just more practical for a number of reasons, even though it is not the easiest one to get started. I have no experience. I just welded for the first time a while back, and I barely can put a couple pieces of metal together with a decent enough solid spot there so as to not have the thing fall apart. So, nothing, less than a newbie. But I wish I had done it before. You just want to get yourself a welder and start practicing with it, and eventually try to get the hang of it and try to get a little bit decent with it, because it's one of those skills that you just don't know when it's going to be handy. I mean, this is a skill that you can use your entire life. It's even an employment for a lot of people. This is a line of work that people make decent living with. So, and even beyond that, just practical and neat to know how to put a couple pieces of metal together and build stuff with metal. It is a fantastic skill to have. Folks, I hope you enjoyed my top 10 list of tools to have. Again, remember to subscribe to the channel, thumbs up if you did enjoy it, hit the notification bell button so as to not miss anything, and share the video with people you believe may find it useful. Have an awesome day. See you next time.